Good evening. Welcome to the Budget Subcommittee on the RSU withdrawal proposal. And I'm Joe Bruno, the chair of this committee, and we are now looking at the finances that go along with the withdrawal from the RSU. We have a subcommittee of four, just four, right? Who have been working on the numbers, and we'll count you as part of it. And hopefully we'll get us some answers on where we are and where we're going. So who wants to lead the charge on this?
Well, Marshall did most of the work on getting that spreadsheet put together. So.
All right, Marshall.
If I can bore you for a couple minutes, the first thing I did was to take a look at how the new cost formula would impact the Raymond budget. And I'm going to have to size this. Give me a second here. Okay. These are the numbers of the Raymond School budget as taken from Kurt LaBelle's presentation to the selectmen when they set the mill rate. Oh. So using that as the foundation, we're here. This is our year right now. $8.5 million is where the budget is. And the percent change, that right there is really 100.6%. This is 104%. And the reason it's there is because it makes my Excel formulas run real nice if I leave that.
So that's really a 4% increase.
That's a 4% increase.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Taking the last 6 years, since the RSU has been involved, the average increase has been 2.9%. Coming on to the shared expenses, according to Don Davis, it was roughly $4 million, taking his number of $4 million. That would be the cost share. Applying the 45%, that's our portion of it, and that's reflected in this year's budget. So now taking and applying the formula down to 42%, it's a $71,000 reduction, but when you build in the normal budget increases, you have an increase of $200,000. And then another $200,000, and then another $200,000 as time goes by. So there will not be a negative to the budget.
Well, are you making the assumption that the number of students stays constant?
No. Oh, well, yes, but at 647, which is what we have on the latest ED 279, I can't anticipate, and the number is really 571, I think, total students. So that number would decrease, but that's not in here. This is just flowing out through there.
But the 2.9% increase is a combination of inflation and enrollment effects and everything else. That's just, so you've got a historical.
It's a historical, right. And what I tried to do with this is come up with a number that's on the left-hand side of the scale, so to speak. So now that when we start to take a look at budget projections and pro formas and all that, if we did nothing, we would be in this range somewhere, okay? So that was the purpose of that analysis. Taking a look at...
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes. You want to go back into that, Bob?
I don't really see the numbers, but the questioning is, those numbers are based on all the subjects and programs, subjects that would have offered this year at the Raymond schools through cooperation through the RSU. So
you're pretty much leaving it the way it is, I think, right?
So like
With
you're not taking away,
no change in programming,
you're not taking
no
away
change
Spanish,
in athletics, no change in anything.
Okay,
You
so
have to
that's
start
providing
somewhere.
all services that currently
Right, no change in transportation, none of that.
So you're saying our student population is not dropping?
Oh no, I said it is dropping. I said the last ED 279 was 647, but when you ask the number, it's 571, right? And this year's ED 279 is out, but it's not out to
No.
page 4 yet. Okay, so I'm not sure where that's going to be.
Because I think our population is dropping, our students.
Oh, it is.
Which means the cost should go down.
Wow,
Because part of that cost formula is based on the per pupil.
Well, I fully understand
But you
that,
also
Joe, but
have
I needed to start
contracts.
somewhere, yeah.
Right.
That $8.5 million budget they have there for this year is based on 647.5 students.
Okay.
Now, that may very well drop, but I can't anticipate that if I don't. It's not gonna drop to 571, which is the actual number now. It'll drop somewhere in between. Okay?
Yeah.
If you two would like to me to send that email, I will send that to you. Okay. When I took a look at the budget, what I did is I resorted their budget. And the identifying numbers are these numbers right here. There's a 100 and then a 15. The 100 identifies Raymond Elementary School. The 15 is whatever bucket they use to control that particular expense. And I think 12 is insurances, which is right up here. And I've asked for an explanation of what the actual bucket contains, and I have yet to get a good solid answer. But anyway, you can take a look at these numbers, you can see what's in there, which gives us an idea. Let me reduce this again. It gives us an idea of what's being spent to date in that particular category. 100 is Raymond Elementary, I think 110 is Jordan Small. Yeah, and so you get into different buckets. This is 20 professional salary teacher. This is not what I know as instructional costs. It's way too low for that. So it says CIA. I'm not.
Curriculum director.
Okay.
You see under director 20, it's curriculum director.
Okay, but that's.
That's what CIA means?
I think curriculum and instruction. What's CA stand for? Yeah. See, there's something in there that. But that's a pretty low number for instruction.
No.
No, look.
No, we would love to have your
Yeah,
input.
Can we take public comment here? Yeah.
Because we've asked
it's a
for
workshop, so we
explanations
can-
on
Oh,
those
well,
numbers
this
we
is
haven't
the
gotten
thing,
yet.
It's huge. I mean,
Yeah.
this is, if you came to, you would know if you came to budget meetings, because it's usually explained. And there probably is somewhere a handout, because we give it out every time we do a budget thing about what all these things involve. But curriculum instruction is just that piece that Christine, it's her office, her.
It was Christine.
Christine Heisler?
Curriculum. So it's curriculum instruction. So it would be,
It's probably I don't know who the teachers, I can't tell you who all those people are, because I don't really
Looks like
understand
three
that.
teachers.
Three teachers.
Yeah. Under hers, yeah. I would need more of that, but that's not all of the instruction for Raymond Elementary.
No,
It would
that's
just be
just-
coming out of
okay.
curriculum and instruction.
Let me back up here and just throw the big picture out there, and then we can get into the nitties. When I do that, scrolling through Raymond Elementary, this is the total cost for Raymond Elementary, 2.4 million. And then the same thing flows through for Jordan Small School, the 12 to 15. Jordan Small is cost center 110. And that flows through to 2.5 million. And then from here on down, we get into those formulas and so forth and so on. And I really didn't want to
Yeah, that's where I start.
try to divide and multiply and all that. But that's what the totals look like there. And the cost to Raymond, just for the last two entries, Wyndham, Jordan Small and Raymond, is 4.9 million. Can you see that okay, Jerry?
What about the
Why
cost?
do you have Manchester, I'm just curious, why you have Manchester?
Because that's the way it was carried on the form, and I didn't want to edit the form. I just wanted to change. These are my numbers. These are white numbers, so to speak. You don't see those.
I didn't.
What about the high school?
The high school is,
It hasn't been split up.
So,
We
it's the
haven't
last
applied-
one,
we
80.
haven't appropriate, allocated what the Raymond element of
Percentage
that
of the
is. Yeah.
students are.
I don't know, what's J.A. Andrews School? What's that? Is that the real school?
What?
It's a school that was mothballed in Wyndham before we ever were an RSU.
Okay.
And it's essentially just to keep enough heat
To
on,
show,
so it's, yeah.
That's,
It was, and
this is the high
storage.
school. Joe, do you want to go down and look at the bottom number? Or?
Well, I'm trying to figure out how much tuition do we pay for Raymond kids to go to Wyndham High School?
And that's
we have
tough
a
because I can't get a handle on the number of students.
what,
One day
a
it's
couple
this,
of-
one day it's that.
210 students maybe?
Wow.
We
Somewhere
have
in
the
there?
numbers.
But we don't pay
Well, we're not paying
tuition.
tuition.
We don't pay tuition.
But if you had
Well,
to break
but-
it out for what the tuition is what we're trying
It
to
would be
figure out
like
for the budget.
12,000 per student times 200 and something,
Yeah.
right?
If you could get, I think the latest number I had on school was,
State tuition's right.
Well, let's see. Do we know what?
I mean, why isn't the Raymond Choice number an approximation of what?
Yeah,
No, not necessarily.
No?
The choice number is people that are going outside of the high school.
I think I had,
That
What?
would give you a tuition rate, but it wouldn't give you
it's the same tuition rate
Yeah, it's,
Right.
that if they went to Wyndham.
right.
yeah.
No,
The allocation of the
Jen
cost.
brought up another number and it wasn't 12,000.
No,
Oh my
it-
God, yeah, it's pretty
No,
high.
the Raymond Choice numbers are much lower than that.
Are they?
It's whatever the tuition is that the state sets for the year.
Yeah.
At least that's for a public school. It's not the same for private schools. We pay more for private schools. The town of Raymond pays
And
more.
everyone pays different.
Let's see.
I thought Raymond only pays up to what we pay Wyndham.
For
For
other
a
schools
public
and then the
school,
parents have
but
to
private
pay.
schools, there's a
Right.
value-added tax that we pay every
Right,
year as well,
1.1%.
that the taxpayers pay as well.
Right.
The parents don't pay. The town of Raymond pays that.
But we used to have a contract with the private schools saying we would not pay that value-added tax.
Is that what the current ones are, Paul?
Well, the RSU doesn't have a contract like that.
Oh my God, is it any smaller?
We don't contract with those schools. Maybe Raymond did, but the RSU doesn't contract with those schools. If Raymond
See,
does,
they're
that's
a lot
great.
lower.
I don't think the town of
Right,
Raymond
right,
contracts with them.
Right, that's what I thought it was about
We pay-
9,300.
So the town of Raymond pays that additional piece.
the last numbers that I heard, and I'm not sure I have these in the right order, but it's 198 in Jordan Small,
That sounds about right.
204 at the elementary school,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
which leaves 169 at the high school.
I think you're right, yeah.
That doesn't sound right. Jeff.
That's a number I got from
That's the number we called the schools and got.
169 at the high school.
169 at the high school.
Whatever I sent you is what
Right.
it is. And it'd be the 169 times the, what, 9,400?
Well, let's say 10,000 for rounding
Right.
purposes.
Well, back in 08-09, for the tuition, we were looking at $1,935,000, and the population was slightly higher. But I'm not sure at the high school side. You know, I'm trying to remember back in 08 and all that. But it
That's
seems
all
to me
fine.
that we were in the 210 range or something like that as far as number of students tuitioned.
Yeah, we were higher for sure.
Right.
So even if you round it up to 10,000, you got 161 kids in the high school, and you're at 1.6 million.
1.6. yeah.
Right. Add it to the 4.9, that gets you into the 6.5
Right.
range.
But what also isn't in the figures there is some of that system, but in looking through here, what's not picked up in those is transportation cost.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also food
And
service is
food
not
service
in
is
there.
not in there.
And I think also special ed is carried under a separate category.
And administration's not in there.
No.
Right.
Right.
But and if you look what's on that old budget, is what I would take to follow what we're
Right.
missing out of it.
So we can use these as fresher numbers and
To
combine
update
them
those
with
and then
these,
plug the other
right,
ones.
plug them in where they need to be plugged in.
This fills in some of the holes that we can
Right.
see there. You know, albeit it's old numbers, but it's, at least it gets you in spitting range.
Base number that you can get, yeah.
Is, if I could ask the audience a question here. What is this? I'm gonna be able to find it. I'm looking for special ed. I thought it was a different,
Yeah, special
CARED
ed's-
is a different category.
It is, yeah, it would be its own. I just, like, we get a budget that has all the special, it's not by school, so you have something different.
Well,
than
yeah,
we
and that's the
see.
way the state wants to see it. I understand that, but
Marshall did this whole thing up separate from what, yeah, so we could know the categories.
well,
That's
what
why
I did
we
is I
added
just,
this.
So
I
what
just
is
took
that? I mean, I'm not sure what that is on right there, I can't.
this category 20. Well, you go down to the, if we go down to the bottom and take a look.
Right.
CIA
That's CIA.
Okay, I think student services is special ed. I think that's the way they phrase that.
And what is that? Oh, that's total.
But that's a big
Yeah,
number.
It's 7
That's for the
million,
whole
so it's probably.
Yeah, but special ed's a big number anyways,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Well, it's probably 16% of your budget.
Yeah.
Well, it should be, because I think the state anticipates 15%, and I think if you're over 18, you get penalized or fined. You used to. If you're identifying too many. Anyway, that's the numbers off of their budget.
I feel like I'm missing something.
Well, you are. You're missing.
Transportation.
You're missing transportation. You're
Administration.
missing.
Supervision.
You're missing transportation. You're missing special ed and special ed
Services.
chargeback
Right.
for the high school.
Right.
You're missing, you know, in
Food service.
food
Food
service.
service. Yeah.
Central office as far as.
No, central
And then
office.
you're missing things like any debt service, and then the question of
There is a
then
line
the question
item
of
in here for
who
debt
owns
service.
who owns what percentage of surplus. You're missing, you know, on the transportation side, you're looking at any capital items, because I don't know what the fleet age is, and I don't know how it's appropriated between the two areas there on who, you know, on
There's your
what's
debt
got to
service
be
there,
what's
Joe.
got to be done in the.
Most of that's the high school, right?
Yeah, 'cause that's system-wide debt service.
Yeah, it's in a system-wide category, so.
They don't have- yeah. I didn't bring any of my paperwork with me. I think the debt service on Raymond Elementary, I don't remember.
That's the only entry in this budget for debt. There's only one.
Well, if it's system-wide.
Yeah.
There must be only a couple of years left on Raymond Elementary though. Right, it was built in 97, 98?
Nope, 2000. Well, it was built, but
We
as I
have a
say,
20-year
Ben started
did we
the
have a
first
20-year
year.
bond on
Bonnie
that,
started the
or
first year that
15 or
was
20?
2000.
I think it was a 20-year bond.
All right, so we put
So-
some numbers.
That debt service though, if Raymond tuitions its kids, you don't have the debt service to the high school.
To the high school, we would still, if there was still some on RES and Jordan Small.
I don't think there's any on Jordan Small.
What about on the upgrade?
Well, there is the only debt service in RES.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's only for
And
a
it's
couple.
not huge. I think it's like $225,000. I
Right.
don't think it's a huge
I think
amount.
I think I saw that
That's the
somewhere.
only,
It's
that's the
about
only
3
thing we
years
get
left.
from the state. The only, we are a non-receiver from the state. We get no state money except for that debt service, that we get something for the debt service on our ED 279, but we get no money from the state.
Right.
So we totally use tax dollars to pay for the Raymond education. And we won't. If the decision is to withdraw, there will be no money from the state.
We were never a big receiver anyway.
Well, weren't receiving back when we were, the end of the time we were an element, a district. So that is, not something I wouldn't plan on getting any money from the state. Let's put it that way.
Are we set with this one? Because there's a couple
Yeah.
more.
Yep.
This is the capital budget. Now, I changed this over here because I don't like it when it's in thousands. So I had expanded these numbers to the actual number, and I did find a $20,000 addition error on here, but I don't know where it is. But anyway, this is the capital budget. And that's 2.02 million. The biggest expenses in the boiler system in Jordan Small.
2 million. It's really not a lot to do all that stuff if you stop and think about it. You know what I mean? And there's
I don't think there's been a whole lot of maintenance stuff.
I don't think so either.
Buildings.
You had a chance to walk through Jordan Small. You said you met with, and you looked at what area needs roofs.
As a disclaimer, I suppose I should use that word, Randy Crockett is a friend of mine. He's been a friend of mine for years. And I have been through the school. I'm looking at the school a couple years ago, and I'm looking at this, and I don't know. I know that one of the issues that came up was the roof on the gymnasium. That's a steel roof. That's not a shingle roof. That's a steel roof, and it needs to be treated with whatever they put on steel roofs. I think the only serious issue is in what they call the B wing. There's a leak on the flat portion of that roof. Okay. And I have not talked to Randy about any of this as.
That boiler has needed to be replaced for at least 30 years.
Yeah.
yeah.
We talked about that back in '07.
Can I ask a question? And I'm going to direct the question to the school board members. The latest agreement Part B, called minor capital improvements and major capital improvements. What's that designator of a minor to major capital improvement?
Major would be new construction and additions, and minor is considered renovations, and everything else would fall under the regular budget.
So when we're looking there,
That's
I
mine.
did
that
just
would be
think
minor
that's-
capital
Yeah.
improvements.
Those would be minor.
And they would be shared between the two communities.
Mhm.
Is that 50-50 or is there a percentage based?
It's the formula that we've proposed.
If they're
The-
over and above EPS, I mean, that's the other question. If it's within the budget, I don't know how all that fits into EPS and those sorts of things. But at this point, typically how the state divides 68.
What are we now?
Yeah, what are we now?
55, 45.
55, 45.
No, what is the state
60.
division?
Oh, the 64-36?
Right. They're both about 64-36, so the whole thing will be approximately 64-36. Close enough for government work, if you
Right.
don't mind my saying so. So we would change that. So it's going to be about 64-36.
Okay.
Whether it's done in Raymond or whether it's done in Wyndham, that would be the way that goes with this B versus A.
You can have a new addition for 50,000, but you can have a minor renovation for 5-6 million. It's just, yeah, that's where the attorney clarified it. It's new.
Just as an addendum, this right here is the IRT we talked about last night. Okay, and they're carrying it at 315. I don't know why they're doing that, but anyway. And there's
I
one
thought they
more.
were asking for 300.
We're asking for they're asking for 300. So there's a $15,000 difference there. And the last one is the maintenance budget, which that looks like it's kind of packed a little bit, but. And when you take this number here and you add them up and then you go back into the main budget and add up all the repairs and maintenance cost center identifiers, they don't add up. So
Well, I mean, partly is, that doesn't include any individuals, any people. So custodians. I mean, so that's not included in that. So you just, I mean, it's not a complete.
These are just the contracts.
That's
that-
fine. That's fine. If there's
Yeah,
any
that's
answer
right.
to
Just so
that,
that's,
fine.
that's what the difference is. So I
Yep,
mean, so
that's
part
fine.
of it is just it doesn't include, you know, the personnel that do that. So that's why there's a big difference between those numbers.
And looking at that, I don't think there's any surprises in that particular one. The maintenance, the capital budget, I saw a couple of surprises, but this, that would probably go away with a new boiler system, maybe. We'll
I
see.
mean, you would still have
Well,
contracts.
still have
you just
contract.
you just end up, it may not be under them, it may be somebody else.
A repair contract, a maintenance contract.
And the other thing I thought of is there's gotta be one big septic tank up there, but for $500 a year, I think that's awful low, but.
I think that's reasonable.
Really? Cost me $300 to do mine,
Yeah, but how many times a year you do it?
once every 5, but that doesn't matter.
And
Still
$200, I have
$300.
to do it yearly for daycare.
Okay, anything else on this? Does anybody want to go back into anything else there?
So, seeing those numbers, have you kind of calculated an estimate of where we would be as a school district, Raymond School District, our costs?
No.
Okay.
Because I would have to come into here, and I would have to apply percentages, and
Right,
et cetera, et
exactly,
cetera, et cetera,
exactly.
to get to the, and I'm not comfortable doing that. There's so many variables on this that I wouldn't be comfortable.
Because you get, you know, the system-wide costs have to
Right.
get appropriated.
Right, because we're not gonna have an assistant superintendent, we're not gonna have,
Yeah,
you know,
you may not even
those
have a
type of things.
superintendent.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know whether, just spitballing here, I don't know whether you could sub out some of the other services
Mm.
either.
You
like-
can,
Like special ed. Can
because
you
what
sub
happens is
out?
you can team on to somebody else that doesn't have a full-time special ed. You
Right.
do the same thing with the superintendent.
And you
the
don't need a
superintendent
curriculum
principal.
director, Jordan Small.
Right.
I guess now I'm gonna refer back to Rolf, because I see
Yeah.
he has is that the last
We okay with
district
this?
school budget?
Right. This
That's
was
the last one.
that-
And what's the
this-
bottom line on that?
Thank you, Dominic.
Not, 9 million.
9 million. And
That
that
was-
was how
that
much
was-
over
that was-
UPS?
That was 08, 09. I don't know.
Okay.
That I don't have in here. And my memory's not that good.
Yeah, I wouldn't know where to find that form.
So I know that we had, I know that every year we had to authorize a percentage over EPS, so we were always over EPS.
Correct.
So we had, so the town had additional share there. But I don't recall what the figures were. I could go back and now that I found this, I've got the actual warrant articles from back then.
Does that actually tell you how many students we had back then?
No, this doesn't. It may in some of the supporting documents. I didn't bring that with me, but I can look that up because I think it was in the budget presentation.
The number 700 was thrown around for a long time, and it was thrown around here about a month ago, and I think that was a,
That's where we peaked.
Right.
We peaked in the 740
we have been there for
range,
years, yeah.
but now we're gone completely the other way. All right, so where do you want to go from here?
Let me just throw one number out there if I can. Change the size of it.
Excuse me.
The 215, or 2015 ED 279 has been out, but it's only put out one number in there. No, I'm sorry, I can't lay my hands on it right now. I thought they projected a DPS, but they haven't. Nor have they got their school population in there. Sorry.
To answer your question, Joe, to really come up with a ballpark figure, I think the matter of curriculum needs to be discussed, and that's going to affect staffing. If you want to maintain the same curriculum they have today, or even improve on that curriculum for special studies, we really need to wrap our hands around that offering to determine kind of what the teacher population would be and resulting salary. I think the capacity is not going to be an issue. But I think, you know, I don't know how many crossovers, how many teachers teach in the Wyndham schools, maybe in the morning, and come into the Raymond schools in the afternoon. Is there any crossover, 50% teachers type?
There's very few, but I know we have shared music teachers. The music teacher here does now go to Wyndham. I'm trying to think who else.
I don't know about ours or PEM.
There's just, I would say it's probably a handful. I can't think of a tremendous, I just know of that one off the top of
And
my
they're all
head.
specialists. There's no classroom teachers that I know of. They'd just be specialists that would do that.
So I guess we got to wrap our hands around that.
Student-teacher ratio, do we have any idea what it is?
Oh, well, we have a great student-teacher ratio often, you know, in
Here
terms
we
of.
do, right?
Yeah.
Which is what,
15 to 1?
18 or less?
Well,
Yeah.
depends.
18, 20, sometimes they're up to 24, and they can be a little bit higher. It's really always a very difficult, whether you have a third teacher and a class of 15, or you have two teachers and a class of, you know, do the math. I'm not a math person. So, I mean, every year we sort of struggle, but both schools do. I mean, it's one or two students in our district in our schools makes a very big difference than in a larger, you know, when you've got 7 first grades versus 2 first
Right,
grades.
right.
2 extra people can make a difference. So that's always going to be a tension, you know, whether we're one district or whether Raymond separates. That's going to be an issue. Yeah, ratios of students.
That was always a big policy that we had here too, that they wanted lower ratios
Yeah,
to students,
but-
yeah, of 20 and under.
But as soon as, and when you do that, then you get that 21st or 22nd person,
That
when
you-
you hire somebody or no, then you creep
That was-
up, and then you have very small classes, and then someone else has 24 or 22 in a class, someone's got 15, and so it's a tension, there's no doubt about it, no doubt. But
Well-
that's part of being having the small schools in this town.
What's the year that you have there, Rolf?
08, 09.
Okay, I go 06, 07, 07,
Yeah,
08.
because that was the last year, right?
Right.
Consolidation was
Yeah.
on that.
Just to go back a few paragraphs, the 279 for 15-16 does show 593 students.
593.
593.
Hours.
That might also show what the debt service is on Raymond Elementary.
If you can read this faster than me, you're welcome to.
E 279.
Well, let's see.
Page 2.
And
Debt
that,
service in 08, 09 was 389, or no, excuse me, was 600.
does the 593 include the Raymond Choice folks? Even though they're not enrolled in the Wyndham schools?
Does
Oh,
this?
yeah, what is it?
No,
So
that
this goes down,
593 number. And
What did-
I think
I
in the
think it
cons-
does.
What did you
Yeah,
have?
I think it
The
does,
number
given
for debt
the
service?
numbers, other numbers we've been talking
The
about.
principal? What did you have for that debt service?
I
The
had
budget,
389, principal 228.
210,807 is what it is currently. We have an adjustment for debt service on our ED, for our part of the ED 279. So that's what they're giving us anyway, is a adjustment. Now, whether it's more than that, but that's what they give us.
Because that 9 million figure included debt service. Without debt service, it was 8.4.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's done in 2018. I think it was 98 when we started those payments. Because
Within the next
construction
couple
was
years.
96.
Within the next couple of years,
Yeah.
just 2 or 3.
So what this seems to be saying is that Raymond's percentage is 31.61 and Raymond's is 68.39. That's the state. And then they have a mill rate that goes with that.
Which is 8.48.
For us, it is 8.48. For Wyndham, it's 6.79. But that's again because we get that to mill rate because we're a zero receiver of funds. So any funds we get from the state, which at this point, you know, that's a question mark, will go to, is essentially, you know, goes to Wyndham.
Isn't there a maintenance of effort mill rate that you have to match for school funding?
Well, you've gotta meet
It's like,
the minimum EPS.
Right.
You have, you know, so you have to
That-
meet that, you have to,
we
Pick
are
that
way
one.
over it. Wyndham's barely there.
Yeah, that's the same problem we have with that thing.
what were they showing for debt service, Chair?
Well, they're giving us a
210,
210, yeah, that's what they're
Because
giving us.
Because if I'm looking at this, the principal on the debt service, carrying that through was at 389 a year, and it's just the interest dropped each year.
Yeah, so we may be almost done with it. There might be 1 or 2 years left.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking here at debt service allocations.
Oh, you know,
Pay-
you know
Payment
what it
date
could be?
11/115, new elementary 389,757 plus interest is 425,176.
Yeah, you know what's happening, yeah.
But-
It's this is the total debt service, but we're only getting, the subsidy was coming back at a lesser amount.
Right, okay, so it looks like
Yeah.
actually our debt service is about
Yeah.
$465,000.
So that's a good number there.
This is a good
That's
number.
the
This
one
is
you
the
called.
actual debt service. And
The 465,
The
okay,
three-
that is what it is.
Well,
We're-
it's 389 plus interest, but what's coming up on there is what they're looking at from their calculation of what they're gonna allow
Right,
for subsidy back. So it's a lesser figure because, you know, part of what our debt service included in there was, things that were above and beyond what they would approve on the.
Right.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay. What else, what other information do we need that we don't have?
Well, we need the information on fleet and age, because we need to know where we are as far as, you know, do we need to calculate it?
How much are buses now, 100,000
120
What's that?
per
buses?
bus?
What do they cost?
Yeah.
Oh, no, we just put in for 2 buses, $85,000
85?
for
Oh,
2
so
buses.
they haven't gone up that much then, because
Huh.
they, you know, back
Well,
then
and
they were
also
like
the-
75.
One
so-
time we used to buy our own, but now the state purchasing all the
Ah.
buses, so there's some purchasing power because they buy all the buses for the state and then you buy it through the state. So I think we put in for like $85,000. We haven't really done our budget yet.
Are they approved, or are they just out of pocket?
They're
Do you get
approved.
state
You
reimbursement?
get state reimbursement.
Yeah.
You pay for them, but then you get
Yeah,
reimbursed
the next year you get, the
year.
next year you get the reimbursement,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not 100%. I forget what the percentage is. I don't know what it's,
Never 100%.
Not 100%, but you do get that. So you get that going forward. So there's that.
That's 85 for 2 buses?
I believe so.
Each,
Yeah.
85 each.
85 each.
Each makes more sense.
But I mean, the real question is, where is it in fleet age too? Because, you know, when we, you know, at one point, they were trying to get replaced on about a 5-year cycle.
You know, I
If
can't tell you how
remember correctly.
often Mike does that. He does that. He does a really good job at figuring out and
Yeah.
keeping older ones and, you know, getting new ones and.
Well, I mean, but from our calculator, if we're looking at, if what's essentially in the fleet that would stay here, if it's all at the tail end, then, you know,
Well, I think
that's
that's all
one
how
thing.
you.
If they're at the
you
front
don't-
end, that's
you
entirely
certainly don't
different.
negotiate to get the tail end buses. So I think that
Have that one.
that's your all's job. Is, you know, kind of figure that all out. But
I think another thing would be, what would we lose by dividing, and what economies of scale are in place now, such as food? You have to be on a bandwagon somewhere for total food purchases, fuel for the buses, that might be under a contract to the RSU, things like that, I think might pop up and surprise us.
How much was the transportation budget? That, it used to be like 400 and something thousand.
In this one, let's see.
And the food budget was always a small number, because, you know, it was pretty much break even what the kids pay for food,
Yep.
and what you put into it.
Oh, transportation, okay. 451.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
it's 451 plus because they always broke out field trips and things like that
Right.
separately. So I mean, you know, but you know, if you call it in that 460 range here.
But the food service, what do you have on there for that one? Because what I do remember is they charge, and they don't have to offer food programs in school.
Well, we
Do you guys
did.
know
We
that?
had school nutrition. and
Right.
We had an in-fund transfer of $8,000.
Okay, I remember that, and I know in 07, 08, they did 25,000.
Right. But most of it was
But a lot of,
break even.
but I remember, exactly, because I remember they said they pretty much charge, and then they get reimbursed from the state for kids that,
Well, there's a
yeah.
a yellow form, shall we say.
Mm-hmm. So they're
Subsidized. this
they're
is
kind
what I
of
was looking for,
self,
subsidized food.
they handle themselves, that's what it is. Yeah.
But I do think your point is a good one. We have probably one of the premier best food service programs in the state. I mean, it wins awards. Jeannie Riley is fabulous. If you ever want to go and eat, go and eat. It's just, you know, they really are well known. It would be unfortunate to lose that, which obviously would lose, you know, Jeannie and her thing, but in terms of just being able to continue a really good food program when these kids are used to a really excellent food program. So I'm just going to suggest that's one thing to really think about in terms of how do you maintain and continue. And that may be something you need to, you know, talk to Jeannie about how you would continue to do that, and whether that's a part of, again, economy of scale of that kind of thing.
Now, when you use the word "we," you're talking about Raymond, right?
I'm not the RSU.
The RSU.
But we also have to remember, we have the people that we have that's working under Jeannie, like Kim Williams, that's been there for years. Sandy Cook, I think her name is, and they all know too, is kind of what she's done. So kind of like the secrets are there, but in other words, they've learned a lot from Jeannie too. I know she's great to deal with, but I think it would be that we've had these guys in the system for a long time too. So I don't think we'd be, I don't want to say we're not losing something, because that's not what I want to say, because that's not what I mean. I think we have a good crew that's there that could carry it, is what it is too.
So going forward here, I mean, I'm getting the sense that at $8.5 million, that's pretty close to what we would be on our own. Maybe a little bit more. Does it make sense to wait for the vote on the new funding formula?
I have to agree with you. You know, we could put a lot of time and effort into this to come up with a number, but I find that the current offering from the school board is what I would have wanted from this effort. And I would vote in affirmative of that recommendation of the school board. Whether or not we want to keep on meeting and pound this thing, to a fine line, is one thing. I'd be willing to do that, but I'm kind of happy with I'm happy with the proposal. I hope everyone votes for it.
Yeah, it's much better than where we were. My only objection, honestly, is that it's a 3-year phase-in, because it was done for political reasons. It means that Raymond's going to pay more than what they should for 2 more years.
I fully agree with that.
That's my only problem with it.
But I see why they're doing it though.
Yeah.
And I understand what it is.
They gotta
You
sell
know,
it.
it's a
is
phase
what
in
it
for
is, yeah.
for Wyndham too.
Right.
Right.
And not just that culture shock of going right down at, you know,
Right, and
70%,
to me,
whatever it is.
it's, I hate political decisions, I
Mhm.
really do. As someone who was involved, I hate making those political decisions. But I think the Raymond taxpayers are gonna pay, you know, an extra $150,000
Mhm.
over 2 more years
Yeah.
than they should. But overall, it's not a bad deal for Raymond.
I
But
agree.
I don't wanna just meet for the sake of meeting. I think we got some good numbers here. I feel comfortable that, you know, the numbers make sense. And it's, you can go on your own, and then you got a lot of work ahead of you to separate. Or you can stay where you are.
Mhm.
And you're probably gonna negotiate with Wyndham as your main school anyway.
Correct.
So, there may be some savings, but I think it's pretty small when you consider what you have to be able to offer.
I don't think he's looking for savings. I think we're just looking to see what Raymond, I mean, I know why I started it, and we got a lot out of the school. If any new additions are being built, it's gonna be done down in Wyndham
Yeah.
and paid for by Wyndham. It's gotta be passed though, March 25th, that's the big thing.
Right.
And it's really gonna come down to a numbers game of which town shows up more, to be honest. You know what I mean? And,
I would have a hard time thinking that Wyndham people are gonna show up to vote against this.
5:30, I think it is too, correct?
That was to allow any more questions before we actually vote.
Okay,
For anybody last minute that didn't have a chance to go to hearings.
good.
We'll go
We're all
over it
worried,
again.
like, how's everybody gonna get there like that quick from
No,
work?
that was to allow one opportunity, another opportunity to ask questions.
What time is the actual vote then?
I don't really.
5:31.
It is.
But I can,
Well, no, and that's why the
I mean, I
girl
can
that was
go
sitting
and
up
see
in the
that.
front, that lady was sitting up front on me, she even said the same thing. I said, did they say 5:30? And this was at your last meeting. So I don't want to tell people to show up at 5:45 or 6 o'clock and then all of a
And
sudden,
miss the vote.
yeah, because it's really going to come down to a hands vote. It really is.
We'll be sending out the notices, you know what I mean, because right, everybody has to know exactly what time the
Yeah.
vote is gonna be, whether that's, we'll say 6 or, you know what I mean?
See if I can find it, I don't know if I can, but let's see.
While she's looking at, there's another public hearing, is it this week?
Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday, and is there a time on that?
Yep, 6:30.
6:30, yeah.
Or yes.
That's the
At
one
the
that's here.
Raymond Elementary School.
And that's at RES. Jim?
Yep.
One action item I'd like to see the select board take would be to look into what we need to do to talk to the tuition schools about checking that rate. Because it appears that, you know, that what we had in place years ago as far as not having to pay that surplus
Right.
fell off the wagon.
Hmm.
And so if they were, you know, if that's what if they were okay with that prior to that, why aren't
Well,
they?
I imagine, yeah.
And it just appears
It
that,
probably disappeared around consolidation
Yeah.
time, would be my guess.
Right. But I mean, the fact is, I mean, that, you know, if
Yeah,
you're
it
looking,
could
if
be-
you're looking at, you know, and especially if we're, you know, if that saves, you know, if that saves us 20 or 30,000,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that-
probably in that range.
you know, then that.
Actually, it's probably more like 40 to 50,000
Okay, so I
is
mean.
what is budgeted.
you know,
I think they
you know,
usually budget
if-
at least $40,000.
So I mean,
that
if
is,
you were able to do something on
Yeah.
that, that kind of blunts that
Hmm.
timeline. You know,
Right.
you know, the impact of
But,
taking a
see,
3-year timeline.
Here's where the dilemma is. Is that a select board thing, or is that the school committee?
Yes.
well, it's
I mean,
really,
if-
I believe it's a select board issue
Okay.
because
It's an overall cost.
it's a cost that is not an RSU cost. It's a town cost. It's an additional charge over and above what the tuition rate is that we pay any other school, whether it's a public school or a private school. So there's an additional, you had a name for it, Joe, I don't know what it's called.
It's a value, what
Value-added
they call it a
tax.
value-added It's almost like a value-added tax,
Yeah.
yeah.
And back when we consolidated and that choice was made, it was very clear that that was a cost to the town of Raymond.
They get an extra 10% on their tuition costs.
Right, so that was a town of Raymond cost, it was not an RSU cost and not up to the RSU to, I mean, it's not up to the RSU to negotiate to save the town of Raymond that 10%, that's, I would see it
Well,
as
who
a, you know, the town
negotiates,
of
who
Raymond
negotiates with the school for the
I'm
rate?
sorry?
Who negotiates with the school for the rate?
That's, the state sets the
The
rate.
state sets those tuition rates.
Right, and every school gets the
And
same
then-
amount.
And then those private schools get to add 10% on.
Right, and the town of Raymond chose to keep choice, and so therefore
Right.
the town of Raymond pays it. It was supposed to
But-
be parents, that never occurred, they never went to the legislature to change
Right.
it, so I don't see it at all being an RSU issue, it's the town of Raymond chose to keep choice, you know, it's fine
Yeah.
to do that.
So, I
But it's
mean-
not up to us to negotiate that, it is up to the town of Raymond to go
Probably
to
in
those.
April, we probably want to have a discussion on it and get on the agenda. I mean,
Because if you
I,
looked at how much money you've spent since it started, there's a
School
pretty
board.
good chunk of change there.
well,
that
no,
The town has.
it would be up to the town, you know, if this is a select board issue, then who do we designate to call NYA, Wayne Fleet,
St.
Gould
Dominic.
Academies? Well, no, we don't
Okay.
do St. Thomas, we don't do the private school, the parochial schools.
But it's in the,
But-
but it's in the budget, so if we bring it up to put it to them to lower that budget cost because the school board is doing the budget, then it would be us asking the board to do it, the school board to do
The
it.
RSU pays that 10% too. So when they
Yeah.
get billed every month, they're paying the tuition rate plus the 10%. And that's why the town of Raymond has to reimburse the RSU for that amount.
So, but it'd be the RSU that would be negotiating with the school, no.
No,
Because
absolutely not.
Yeah, it's choice, yeah.
It is
So it's
all
really a
choice.
tricky.
It is up
it's-
to you. We do it. I suppose they could get really and say, we'll only pay our amount and you guys will bill you separately for your value added tax. That's not what happens.
Right.
Because that's how it occurs. But they could say, we're just gonna give you the tuition. If you want your
We had the
If you want your
discussion.
value added tax, go to your town and get the value added tax. That's not the way it works.
Well, I'm
But
talking
it's-
25 years ago. The discussion at the school board,
Not me, I wasn't there, sorry.
I was, do we charge the parents that value added tax, or do we negotiate with those private schools and say, we're not paying it? And every private school agreed to waive it.
Okay, but they've changed.
Because we, as the town, we're sending so many kids to NYA and Wayne Fleet and
But we don't have those.
Hebron. How many kids are we sending out? Like 43?
31
31 right now?
for FY14.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's probably about a $40,000 ticket.
So
That's what it is.
would we give
46.
the task to Dawn as our town manager to do it?
Well,
If we- if,
that's
like,
the
the-
question. Is it a Don Willard thing? Or is it?
School board.
Oh, well.
Yeah,
Whatever
school
happened,
board.
whatever,
School
well, I guess
board.
then the secondary question would be whatever happened to the vote that we had years ago that said that we would only pay.
That's what I always thought it was. We
and
pay the
so
base
it
rate what
should
we
be
pay
being,
window
it should be being charged back
Back to
anyway.
to the parents.
Right, and if we're not doing that, then then we have a cockpit error.
Well, and that needs to be clarified because I know when we consolidated, or before we consolidated, and anybody went to a different school from Wyndham, is we would pay what Wyndham's base rate was.
Right.
And then they were responsible for everything
Oh,
else.
right.
And some of those parents, actually, because I know a couple of them that went to Westbrook and went to Poland that were more expensive, and they negotiated with Westbrook, and Westbrook made deals with them to say, we'll charge you the same thing as
Same
what Wyndham is. So what it is now is where did it go astray as far as saying the
Oh.
town's paying for it?
Well, I think it all became a mess, and my guess is most people forgot about it. Because that's what happens when you have a lot of transition.
Right.
What we can do is I can suggest to you guys is if we have Dawn do it as a town manager thing, the school's going to tell us we're not going to talk to you. It's not the town thing. We got to deal with the school thing, is what it is. So we're going to find out as soon as we call a school and ask.
Does that tell you all the schools that they go to?
It's simple, we just short pay it, and then they short pay it, and then it'll come to a head. Then you have a big joint meeting, everybody beats each other
There you
up,
go,
and
then we'll
come
see
out-
who it is.
Somebody comes out ahead.
What I have on one of our latest calendars is, excuse me, now I gotta find it. 5:30, cost family discussion, 6 o'clock public vote. 6:30 our board meeting starts.
So 6 o'clock is the vote.
The vote, yep.
So if we get everybody there at 5:30, we're safe to have everybody there for 6 o'clock.
Well, yeah, and
See, that'd be
there's,
good.
there's an opportunity for
Oh, so you get checked
discussion
in.
if there's a need
Exactly.
for discussion for those who need clarification. So it's on the 18th, well, this says the 18th, that must be the 25th.
Okay, so that
Wasn't, yeah.
value
that's
added
the
is
one.
called the insured value rate.
Insured value, okay, but not value, yeah, that's.
And that's only on the schools that are over our,
So Gould,
Over the window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
tell us
Gould,
what's
Gould, Hebron, Carrabassett, Hyde School, North Yarmouth Academy,
in Waverly.
the Taft School in Connecticut.
Yeah.
That was 2 the year before. So
Oh.
the family
That's where
was sending
Brian's
2 kids,
daughter
one
Yeah.
one kid.
yeah, I know who that was.
Yeah. And Waverly.
Is that over now, or have they graduated?
Yeah,
Have they graduated?
I think so, so I think it is.
Who graduated? Who
It was
graduated?
2 years ago?
This is 14.
Students at the
Oh.
Taft School?
I didn't think of that.
Students that went to the Taft School, is that?
Oh,
There was
okay.
one in the FY14.
There was another, okay, yeah,
There were 2 the year before.
Someone graduated, yeah.
yeah.
So, we need to talk to, I mean, MYA's got 10 kids, virus from Raymond. I mean, you start there, obviously.
And then that way we'll know who they'll talk to. They may look and say, we can't talk.
And,
Not gonna talk to
and I
us.
think you say, we are only willing to pay up to the state rate. All the other charges beyond that go to the parents. And I think,
I'm just gonna say that right now, and I think before you go anywhere with that, I mean, right now, I believe that the RSU pays the tuition. We get a bill every month, we pay it, whatever that tuition is, including that insured value. So we'd have to figure out with RSU, I would imagine, to only pay up to that
Right.
amount and say, if you want it, and I don't know whether
Then
that's
why-
even, I don't
why
even know if
can't
that's possible. I don't even know how
well,
that
then
works.
why are we gonna negotiate with these private schools and not say to the RSU, we're only paying up to the state tuition. Anything above that gets charged to the parents.
You need to see, I think in statute, I think it probably says we have to do it. And I think that that's probably in statute, from way back when with school choice.
Well, but I remember that though. I remember saying that, no, we would only pay
It was,
up to
I
that.
remember, I was there as well.
Right.
And it was very clear that we'd have to go back to the legislature and do something so that it was actually charged to the parents, not the town. But the charge is to the town. I bet if we went back to the whole consolidation thing, it should be charged to the town, which is why it is charged to the town. It just happens to be that the RSU pays it. Now, I can talk to Don and say, just send the tuition and have those schools send the bill to the town of Raymond. And then you can deal with that piece, and then you can deal with, but you couldn't charge the parents, that's what I remembered. You had to go back and change in the legislature that took to charge the
I
parents.
think we need to look at that statute and see
Yeah,
if
I
it's
think it's probably
mandatory.
worthwhile, yeah.
What's
But
the
that's,
statute?
but I don't want to get the
For the
RSU,
insured
being
value
protective
factor
and
of private
having to
schools.
negotiate this or say, we're not gonna pay it, or you charge the parents, because that's probably not even what can happen. So I don't want to put our RSU in any sort of,
Can we just slow down here for a
No,
second?
no, it helps because
We're
talking back and forth,
We're
it
talking
helps.
about 31 kids
31 private school kids.
Yeah,
Some of the kids go to
at
public school.
10,000 apiece,
Well, 9,600, yeah.
and the RSU is paying under the formula 65% of that.
No.
100%
No,
plus 10,
what's happening is we're paying,
Right, but
In
our share,
excess
they
of-
would be paying, the RSU under the formula, they'd be paying their share.
if,
The
if,
RSU would be
Title
We're getting,
28.
the town of Raymond is picking up
separate bill.
costs. Yeah,
The additional
I was trying to
cost,
stick
the
it to-
additional
Right, the
cost over
additional
the
cost,
tuition, yes.
right. Rob, you want to say something?
Yeah, it was just, I'm Robert Fay from Carriage Hill Road. First thing I'd like to say is that my recollection is the same as Joe's and Teresa. Hi, is the same as Joe's and Teresa's regarding how that was all handled. That there was a negotiation with the private schools.
Right, April was on the school committee.
Yeah, well, we sent kids away too. So and then the town wound up not paying the override. And we just made it up in the payments that we made to the schools. Could I segue to another
Sure.
question if it's okay? We're gonna vote on the the recomputed distribution
Formula,
coming up
yeah.
here. At the same time, are we going to vote on the proposed changes to how capital improvements are going to be?
That's
Are
part
going
of
to
that
be,
new formula.
part of the new
A and B, and the school
Okay.
board went to B, is what it is, which is,
looking at the video of the meetings that have been held so far, it seems to me that there's still a lot of questions about, at least the last video that I looked at, there's still a lot of questions about how that's going to take place. Has that been worked out? Or, okay, that's fine. That's fine.
it's still,
I would go to the meeting on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Right.
On Thursday, rather, at the elementary school.
Okay.
With the school board, if you have questions.
I don't think either it's ever going to be fully worked out, because there was some really, Tom Bartel brought up some scary comment questions, is what it is. And you know, the attorney laid it out point simple. You know, the major is any addition, anything new that's bought. Even if you have a building and you want to put one little wall on it that's new, that would be borne by the town that wanted that little room added on. But Tom Bartel brought up the issue is, say Wyndham wants, you know, the school board wants the town of Wyndham to build a new school. Wyndham votes no, but a lot of people don't show up. And a lot of Raymond people show up and say, yeah, we think you should buy a new school. And it's a district-wide vote is what it is. So Raymond can force Wyndham, which is scary,
Well, that's-
and vice
but
versa.
The likelihood of that happening is
Right.
so absurd.
Well, right, but
The
it's,
likelihood
but,
is
Same thing then,
is
okay,
the
let's-
opposite
So
scenario.
I,
exactly.
I
Except
don't,
that-
I think that's a highly, I understand.
Well, no, I'm
That's
just saying that's
highly-
as a scenario is what it was. So I mean, but that's
Why
things,
would the
but,
town of Raymond
Right.
do that? And
Impose,
do that?
Well,
I mean,
exactly.
Exactly. So I think that that's a little bit of a red herring.
Just to address the assertion that it's a red herring, is it determined how, the process by which these capital improvements would, how they would track? Would the school board, the RSU school, let me ask, can I ask the question? Would the RSU school board vote on the proposed capital expenditures, or would the towns themselves make those determinations?
No, it would be a proposal from the school committee, would be my understanding.
It's
And
based-
eventually, the town has to vote on the school budget.
and it's based on health and safety is what Don Davis said. That's what they look at first when they're looking at these capital improvements.
Okay,
Because it's got to be the safety of the kids.
okay. I think I
This is
understand.
the
Thank you.
conflict, I mean, the conflict.
Yeah.
This is the
No, it's okay.
statute.
You talk some more if you want to.
On the insured value.
Mhm. So, it's not really.
It's somewhere in there.
Okay, tuition charge above allowable maximum.
Right.
May charge tuition above the allowable maximum established, 15%. May be paid in whole or part by the school administration. But they're not gonna pay it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to take a look at that tomorrow,
Yeah, there's
if I
nothing.
get a
else on
chance. So, alright. So, right now, we're gonna sit on it until the vote on the 25th.
Mhm.
That
See
make
what
sense?
I agree.
Alright.
Marshall, thanks for all that work that you put on that.
And
Yeah,
then,
I don't
Just-
know if I've got it.
do we wanna
I don't
meet
think I have it.
after that vote? Set up a date for sometime after that vote?
Yep,
Are you gonna be around?
for the committee.
Yeah, the 31st? Tuesday?
March 31st?
Well, just a second.
Dominic, is this room available on the 31st?
What day is that?
No, I won't be.
Oh, okay. The 30th?
30th, yes, 31st.
What about the 30th?
30th.
This month, March.
31st, I'm in for a surgery. So I ain't doing anything for a few days after that.
How about the 1st?
Of what?
April 1st? You run a small meeting as April.
Yeah, perfect day.
I won't be because,
Oh, you're gone?
yeah, I've got a surgery on the 31st and I won't be moving for a couple days after.
You sure?
What about,
Come on, just a couple of Percocet, you've been all set.
what about the 26th, like right after?
You wanna do the 26th? 26th open?
Yeah.
26th looks okay.
Will we know the
We've
results
we've
by
got,
then?
we've got the,
Good.
we've
Yeah,
got
the
the.
25th
budget,
is
we've
the
got
vote.
Yeah.
that Joint meeting
We'll
on
know.
the 24th.
Right.
Right.
Done it?
26th?
26 looks good.
Okay.
Okay, let's mark down the 26th. We'll have the results from the vote.
Okay, well, all right, so we can all meet. Do you want to have, because we said we were going to meet with the whole
No, this
group.
is the entire group.
Okay.
March 26th, the entire group.
Yeah.
To discuss the results, so.
Yeah. Have a vote.
6:30 or?
Yep.
6:30, yeah.
All right, so you're going to have Caitlin send out an email.
It does exist. It's in there, it exists. It's not there, it doesn't exist.
Okay, we have anything else we need to talk about
No, let's go home.
before it snows?
At least the plow will take that big chunk of it.
All right, so
the driveway.
the next meeting of the entire committee is gonna be on the 26th, the day after the vote, at 6:30, right here. Okay? Anything else? Any other questions from the audience, or?
Thank you for coming.
No? All right, thank you. Meeting's adjourned.